I'm going to jump out of here.
Thank you.
Thanks for everybody's time, but I just wanted to give you those stats while we were on the topic. Hey, Arizona, God damn you, where have you been?
Hey, my phone's fucked up. I can't talk to you too long, but listen. This guy talks about why the scientists aren't saying anything. I guess nobody paid any attention to George Bush threatening every astronomer and scientist in the world. He said, if you, now this was in like 07 or 08, just before he left office, he told all of them, you say anything about what you see in space, no comments, nothing. Because if you say anything, you will either do 20 years in prison or we will come and kill you. Now, if that isn't enough motivation to shut them all up, I don't know what it takes. And anybody that doesn't think he said that needs to investigate it.
I wouldn't doubt that.
He told them all.
He also classified real satellite feeds, all satellite feeds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'll be listening and screening.
Okay, thanks.
There ain't nobody gonna put their ass on the line for a bunch of fucking, what'd that guy call them, hayseeds or something like that. They're not gonna do it. The scientists are nothing but a pack of paid whores. NASA's nothing but a bogus operation for the Nazis. And they're not going to put their butt on the line to warn anybody because just like that senator in Denver said, I've got a ticket to the underground facility, screw you guys. And they've all been promised tickets to keep their mouths shut, and that's exactly what they're doing. Everybody out there needs to wake up and realize that these people have been bought. They're not going to warn you. They don't want 10 million people showing up at their underground facility. They're not going to say a damn thing about anything. Now,
in Arizona, while I got you here.
Hold on, yes, no, you're staying around. You're not going anywhere, hijacker. I just wanted to get to Arizona first. After all, I got the reins here. Arizona, how are you doing tonight? This is Tim. The kids got hard in the chat room.
I'm doing fine.
Were you here a few weeks ago saying that we can finally see it in the eastern sky? If you
wait a minute. I was just going to bring that up, okay? Let's do some simple math here and use some common sense. Now, what did Carol just say about how far this thing was away?
6 AU.
6 AU. Okay, let's do some math and use some common sense. It's 1 AU from Earth to the Sun, right?
Okay. That's what it is. That's the measure.
Okay. Now, it's 550-something million miles from the Sun to Jupiter. Okay? If you, on a piece of paper, figure it out, you've got 588 million miles is 6 AU. Okay, that means that Saturn just doing a 90-degree roll, and now it's pulling on Jupiter and causing all kinds of problems. So that means that it is actually out by Jupiter. Okay, now if you get your telescope out, you need a telescope to see Jupiter. Now, everybody knows that. You can barely see Mars because it's so far out there. And Jupiter is way out beyond that. And anybody that thinks you can walk out in the yard and see Jupiter without a pair of a telescope or something, you're dreaming. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay, now let's start on something new. We have something coming up in the eastern sky that you can see with your eyes. You don't even need binoculars or a telescope or anything. It comes up in the eastern sky every night, and it's been getting closer. You can see that there's a group of planets around it, and there's a big debris field by it. Now, if this is Jupiter, how can I see all of this by looking out in the sky at night when it's 550 million miles away? But if you turn a telescope on it, amazingly enough, you can see Jupiter out there, way out there, and you need a good telescope to see it, by the way. And if you can see the planets, well, you're pretty lucky because it is quite a ways away. So what is this thing that we're seeing in the sky that appears to be very close? And it's getting bigger every night. What is that?
Well, I want to know what part of the sky it is in.
It comes up on the eastern horizon every sundown. It comes up around 6:30, 7 o'clock here in Colorado.
And it's what we call Jupiter, what we're known.
No, NASA is not calling it Jupiter.
No, I'm just saying that's what we're looking at right now. That's probably, 11:23? It's probably about 85 degrees in the sky.
Yeah, it's approaching almost overhead right now.
Yeah, okay, good. That's the brightest thing that we can see. Great, because that's one of the questions for Tarot further on. Why are the objects getting so bright in the sky? So,
well, it's just that one object is the only thing brighter than this thing out here in the sky right now that I see is the moon itself, and of course the moon ain't out there, it's gone. But, you know, this thing's really,
so where is Jupiter?
We've been watching it for months now.
Where is Jupiter?
I'm not quite sure, but it's as I guess Cheryl would say, out on the other side of the sun. We're actually should be on the same. I don't know. We should be on the same side of the sun as Jupiter. But like I said, though, Jupiter's 6 AU away.
Okay, so if I can understand correctly, we've got two scenarios. One, it's on the other side of the sun, 6 AU away, and you're saying it's what we see as Jupiter in the sky. Two different stories.
No. What I'm saying is there appears to be two Jupiters in the sky. Something's wrong with that story because that can't be. But there can't be two Jupiters in the sky.
There's really a lot of stuff going on out there that's way over the top. And that's what I was saying earlier, you know, I mean, if you really start beating the bushes on all the stuff that's going on, people run and hide behind the couch and break into a cold sweat because there's so much stuff going on. I mean, I don't really care what anybody says. There is a lot going on, and you really do have to have an open mind to look at it analytically and decide exactly what it is that you're looking at, because sometimes you're not ready for it, and if you're not ready for it, maybe you shouldn't go looking yet.
Well, you know, you said that this whole journey for you began by looking at the images in the Hubble Space Telescope. I was curious as to how, you know, back then, I know it's not available anymore, but was it a link on the internet, or how were you able to get?
No, it was an internet link from Boeing Aircraft Company in Seattle.
Okay.
And I can guarantee you one thing. If you think that the Boeing Aircraft Company are looking at a bunch of nonsense on the internet, I can tell you right now you're dreaming, because they are anything that those people look at. They are so deep in bed with the Department of Defense and NASA and all the rest of those people. You just cannot believe how deep in bed all these people are together. And anything that's coming from them people that, well, that's the reason why they cut the line off and encrypted everything, was because too many people were watching, and that's exactly what my brother told me. He said too many people had got a link. You know, I mean, there was a lot of people at Boeing that had accessory to, hand that link out to people, and they were letting their family and friends watch it, and they were watching stuff they didn't want the people to watch, and they just said, well, screw it, we'll cut the line and encrypt it. And you know, how many people do not remember the news reports about the space shuttle trip up to the because they just turned it off, and then they sent the space shuttle up there, put a new transmitter on it. They told everybody on the news that they had encrypted the transmissions from the Hubble. I mean, didn't anybody believe what they were hearing on TV? They didn't. They weren't hiding it then. They came right out and told everyone on national news, we're encrypting all the programs because we don't want the Russians and the Chinese intercepting this. Well, that was total BS. The only people they didn't want intercepting it was the American people.
Right. And what year was this? Well,
it was in 08.
When you started observing, and what year did they encrypt it?
Oh, we were, it was around 08 when they encrypted it. No, we were watching it in 04. That's what I was telling Terrell. The pictures that Marshall Masters uploaded from the South Pole telescope, those pictures were actually taken in 04. Those weren't taken in 08, because in 08, this thing looked like it was across the street. Those were old pictures. Wow. You know, if they would have shown the pictures that you could have viewed in 08, people would be shitting in their pants right now. You know, I mean, they really would. And that, I understand why they encrypted it, you know, because this thing looked like it was across the street. There was no doubt in your military mind what you were looking at. And so they encrypted it, and that was the end of it. You know, I mean, If the people in this country would wake up and realize the government does not have the right to make anything a secret from the American people. And I'll tell you the reason they don't. A, you paid for it. B, they are your employees. And C, they hand their secrets out to everybody in the world except the American people. Now, how big of a secret is if we tell some company in Japan how to make our secret submarine bearings, and they sell the secret to the North Koreans and the Russians? Now, that ain't much of a secret anymore, is it? But I can guarantee you it's a secret from the American people because they classify everything. And the only reason they classify it and X everything out is so that the American people can't see it, because they're so in bed with the Russians and the Chinese and all the other people on this planet. I'm telling you, the only people that they aren't in bed with is the American people, and that's because they're already in bed. They're watching Oprah and eating bonbons.
Hey, Arizona.
Yeah.
That's the only reason the American people go along with that stupid crap of secrets.
True.
Yeah, what a free society.
Well, you know, the American people have been duped into believing all kinds of stupid stuff with just a little bit of analytical thought on what they're hearing and seeing, you know, would wake them up to the fact that those secrets are secrets from them. Everybody else knows. The CIA is Swiss and British, and they know everything there is to know about anything, and the NSA is the same way, and there's about 10 elite groups above that, and they all know what's going on. I mean, just exactly who is this secret being kept from anyway? They won't show it to Congress, they won't show it to the American people, but they sure don't have a problem with showing it to everybody else. Listen, let me tell you something. Ignore the Bible talking about the destroyer coming. Don't believe that. Don't believe the ancient Sumerians that wrote about it 5,000 or 10,000 years before NASA got a hold of it. Don't believe any of the old books like Enoch and all the rest of them. Don't believe any of the inscriptions that are on walls all over the planet. Don't believe anything about the pyramids, especially the ones where you can look at the water line where it was on the Great Sphinx, and the fact that it's embedded with all kinds of ocean crustaceans, and, just completely ignore 10,000 years of history and believe what NASA is telling everybody. Now, if you're willing to do that, you're not going to have a problem with what you're seeing with your own two eyes around this planet, okay? If you are a little more skeptical, as I am, you'll look around and you'll look at that 10,000 years of history, and trust me, NASA was not involved in any of that 10,000 years of history, because I have not seen any place where it said NASA, okay? And you look at all the history, and just like that one guy that was saying earlier, if he was Sherlock Holmes, he's got all of these points that are documented, and they're not hundreds of points, they are thousands of points. And the problem with it all is that it all points in the same direction. Now, you don't have to believe anything that you see or hear, but I would suggest that you put on your Sherlock Holmes hat and you do like he's done. You take a look at all those points of information, and all of this Planet X stuff goes as far back as magazines were being printed in this country. It goes back. And then it goes back to being carved on stone walls before there were any printing presses where they could talk about it. And it goes back and back and back and back and back and back into history. And after you're done looking at everything, you really don't need anybody to tell you anything, because the handwriting is literally on the wall. You know what I mean? It's literally on the wall.
10 million people showing up at their underground facility. They're not going to say a damn thing about anything. Now,
in Arizona, why I got you here?
Hold on, you're staying around. You're not going anywhere, hijacker. I just wanted to get to Arizona first. After all, I got the reins here. Arizona, how you doing tonight? This is Tim. The kids got hard in the chat room.
I'm doing fine.
Were you here a few weeks ago saying that we could?
I wouldn't go.
He told them all.
Arizona.
He also classified real satellite feeds. Satellite feeds.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's what I'm saying.
I'll be listening and screening.
Okay, thanks.
There ain't nobody gonna put their ass on the line for a bunch of fucking, what'd that guy call them, hayseeds or something like that. They're not gonna do it. The scientists are nothing but a pack of paid holes.
I'm going to jump out of here.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time, but I just wanted to give you those stats while we were on the topic. Hey, Arizona, God damn you, where have you been?
Hey, my phone's fucked up. I can't talk to you too long, but listen. This guy talks about why the scientists aren't saying anything. I guess nobody paid any attention to George Bush threatening every astronomer and scientist in the world. NASA's nothing but a bogus operation for the Nazis, and they're not going to put their butt on the line to warn anybody because just like that senator in Denver said, I've got a ticket to the underground facility, screw you guys. And they've all been promised tickets to keep their mouths shut, and that's exactly what they're doing. Everybody out there needs to wake up and realize that these people have been bought. They're not going to warn you. They don't want old. He said if you, now this was in like 07 or 08, just before he left office, he told all of them, you say anything about what you see in space, no comments, nothing. Because if you say anything, you will either do 20 years in prison or we will come and kill you. Now, if that isn't enough motivation to shut them all up, I don't know what it takes. And anybody that doesn't think he said that needs to investigate it.